In 1967, just a year before his death, King preached a sermon entitled, "When Silence is Betrayal." He said this: we still have a choice today. Nonviolent coexistence or violent co-annihilation. We must move past indecision to action. We must find a new way to speak for peace in Vietnam and justice throughout the developing world, a world that borders on our doors. If we do not act, preaching is a call to act, then we shall surely be dragged down the long, dark, shameful corridors of time reserved for those who possess power without compassion, and might without morality, and strength without sight. And then he said, now let us begin. That's altar call. Now let us begin. Now let us rededicate ourselves to the long and bitter but beautiful struggle for a new world. This is the calling of the sons and daughters of God. King preached upon the foundation of civil disobedience. That was his pulpit. And he called forth a movement. He made a demand. His preaching confronted racism, poverty, and war. That's why he spoke with one who had authority. And not only did he do it within the comfort confines of a quarantine sanctuary, but he did it in the streets of the nation and even from the jails. So Jesus came preaching with power and authority because his preaching laid out a mission and ministry in the face of narcissism and the cruelty of tyrants in his day. His preaching was from the very start, a call to action. Yes. And at the very end, he speaks not about individual charity. No, he says, the day is coming when the nations shall be judged. Yes. How shall they be judged? The question will be asked not of individuals, but of the nations, of the governments, of the systems. When I was hungry, did you feed me? When I was naked, did you clothe me? When I was in prison, did you visit me? When I was sick, did you care about me? How do you care about a God whom you have not seen, inasmuch as your nations care about the least of these in your budgets, in your health care, in your laws? Then you care about me. So if preaching is only words and does not lead to acts of liberation with and on behalf of the poor, the imprisoned, the sick, the oppressed, and all those made to feel that they're not accepted, then preaching is just words. No purpose, talk without action, lip service, a whole lot of sound and fury signifying nothing. It is a waste of time. For the word says, if I speak with the tongues of men and angels, but have not agape, action, love, I'm nothing. And love, my friends, is an action verb. So we must do more than preach. And preaching is not limited to preachers. That's right. That's right. Articulation must act in liberation, or speech is mere word formation for a momentary sensation. Preaching is only authentic when it is embodied by the deliverer. When the words take on flesh and inspire others who hear to take action as well. So, who are the poor? Who are the blind? Who are the oppressed? Who are the prisoners? Who are the unaccepted among us today? Could it be the 140 million people living in poverty and low wealth? The 37 million people without access to health care? The 4 million people who can buy unleaded gas but can't buy unleaded water? Are they those facing the racism of voter suppression? Are they the thousands trapped in the new Jim Crow, where the blacker and browner and poorer you are, the more likely you are to be in prison? Are the poor, are the blind, Are the broken? Are the unaccepted? Are they the gay, the trans, the bi, the queer? Are they the women misused, the children abused? Are they the immigrants that are dying? That are dying, not trying to come into another country, but trying to come back to a country that was stolen from them in the first place. Who are they? And to preach then is to see the people who are crying out and the systems that are crushing them. It is to say somebody's hurting my people and it's gone on far too long and we won't be quiet, let me add, and inactive anymore. It is to do something about it. It is to join with others who are doing something about it. When words are turned into deeds of liberation, that's preaching, and anything else is just talking. When the fruit of the lips becomes actions dedicated to justice, that's preaching. When our words call Jews and Muslims and Christians and Sikh and Buddhists and even people not of faith to come together to work the work of love and work the work of liberation, that's preaching. Yeah. When a call goes out that unites people across the lines of race and class and creed and sexuality, now that's preaching. When the Poor People's Campaign brings natives and Asians and black and white and brown people together and march together and organize together and go to jail together for a moral revolution of values, that's preaching. When preachers go to the border and serve communion to the officers and to communion to those who are holding back the immigrants and then tell them while they're eating the communion that they need correction and they're wrong, that's preaching. When nuns lobby for health care, and when preachers say, I'm not going to preach another funeral over somebody who died from the lack of health care and say God called them home. Instead, I'm going to say God may welcome them home, but the government killed them. That's preaching. When churches and synagogues and mosques open their doors and offer sanctuary to families that are being ripped apart by ICE, that's preaching. That's preaching.